Once again, a very good morning to all the participants joining me here, and I welcome all of you on board. So, before I get started, let me take a quick minute and let me do introduce. So, participants, I myself, Siddharth, and I'm going to be your trainer for this course, Azure Data Engineering. Coming up to my background, I'm a uh, Azure Data Engineer by my job. So, in my current job, I work as an Azure Data Engineer and I totally carry about 10 plus years of working experience, and about now it is around 5 to 6 years that I'm currently working into this job role. As part of this job role, my primary responsibility is to handle the data by extracting data from various sources and making that data processed by using various ETL tools and services offered as part of Azure Cloud, and then processing with the programming involving Apache Spark, that is PySpark, and integrate with the processing units like Databricks or Synapse and get the data displayed onto the Power BI. So this is my job role, and I work on day to day with Azure, and I'm a certified Azure Data Engineer, certified Azure Databricks Administrator. So I do carry complete expertise of Azure Data Engineering. So having said that, once again, thank you for giving me a chance to be your trainer. So the first thing that I'm going to go ahead and discuss is what exactly that you should go ahead and consider if you want to go ahead and become yourself to be a data engineer, and what are the skills that you need to garner, and how this certifications can help you, and how to represent your skills so that you can be a right choice for the organizations. Okay, participants, if I'm good enough, can I see a confirmation from all of you into the chat by typing yes? May I have your confirmations, please? It just says yes. Thank you.
Yes, Siddharth.
Okay. Now, to make the story very simple and easy, Microsoft Azure, I hope everybody are aware of Microsoft Azure, that the company Microsoft offers their cloud services under this brand called Azure, public cloud. So if you look at their services and if you look at their journey that you can take, there are various ways that you can make an entry, but nowadays a lot of companies have already their data on Azure, and they want skilled personals like you who can help them to build pipelines so that they can go ahead and take some meaningful insights from the data. That means the data is already there on cloud now, so they want individuals like you who can work with that data and you know get some meaningful insights. Now that's how big data came into the definition, that the data is so huge that your traditional systems will not be able to support. We need very powerful solutions. So before I go ahead and talk about the journey, I will also go ahead and give you information about the top 10 big data processing engines. So in order to process, we need engines that can support. And if you go ahead and look at the outcome, you see from the sources across the internet, Hadoop followed by Spark stands out to be the top for your processing engine for big data related. So my choice would be always Apache Spark because it is now the world's number one favorite choice when it comes to big data, because it is in memory computing and it is 100 times faster than Hadoop. So remember this word Apache Spark, because I'm going to be using this Apache Spark regularly throughout this discussion. Why? Because I'm focusing on the big data and I'm focusing on processing capabilities and the engine that stands out to be on the top is Apache Spark. So participants, I hope now you're able to get just an idea of what exactly is Apache Spark. I'm not expecting that you have understood Apache Spark, but just an idea of what is Apache Spark. Everyone, are you with me?
Yes, Siddharth.
So I'm going to be using Apache Spark regularly throughout my discussion. For what reason? The reason is clearly mentioned on the screen that when you are looking forward to handle the big data, Apache Spark stands out to be on the top. Now let's come to Microsoft Azure journey. That what journey that you have to take. So you can take a journey of Microsoft, various journeys. Like you can become an administrator, you become a DevOps engineer, you can become a data engineer, you can become a machine learning engineer. Pretty lengthy, and they will be certifying you that you have taken this route as a data engineer, as an DevOps engineer. So various routes. Now let's remain on the very specific agenda for the today's topic, which is data engineer, Azure Data Engineer Associate. So participants, this is actually from Microsoft Azure itself. So I'm from Microsoft organization, not from the Microsoft organization, but we are representatives of Microsoft organization, where we are aware of what roads, if you take, where exactly you'll end up. So the same thing I'm trying to represent via the Azure Data Engineer Associate, where the name of the exam you call it as DP203. So how to remember? Just remember DP, Data Practitioner. 203 is a code number for your data engineer. Now, what is the skills that they will check on this exam? They will check the skills that you should have a skill how to design and implement data storage. You will go ahead and design and develop data processing. You will go ahead and design security, and you will go ahead and monitor and optimize it. So participants, I hope is the concept of DP203 very clear. So code word is what? DP203. Data storage, data processing, security are the skills that they will judge you on the certification if you take this route of DP203. So can I get an assurance from all of you that you have understood the concept of certification that you want to take, or the route of DP203 that you want to take? Is this very clear? So today you want to become a data engineer, so you have to take the route of DP203, where you need to know storage, processing, and the security around it. Okay. Now coming back to the story, that what is exactly is the data storage. Now let's assume that you are very new, you want to understand data storage. So participants, if you break down data storage means if a data is given to you, where do you go ahead and store your data? In Azure Cloud. So when it comes to Azure Cloud, there are a lot of storages that are available. So how do you go ahead and identify it? So for this, go ahead and understand the very simple principle. In the world, in the real world, there are only two types of data. One is your structured, one is your structured data, and the other one is unstructured data. This, if you understand, then you will understand the data storage very easily. So in the real world that we work, we will get the data either in the form of a structure or in the form of an unstructured. So if you're getting structure means you'll get a table, you'll get your columns, you'll get your rows. That's structure. But there is also unstructured data, like a JSON document, like a image, like an audio file, like a video file. It is purely unstructured. So gone are the days that the data was available for all of us in the form of tables. Order table, sales table, employee table, department table, table. Tables are very easy. That you go and write a query, you'll get your outcome. But the challenging part has started when the data was available in the form of unstructured. So participants, now the world is moving not only for structure but also unstructured. Why? Because there is a huge growth. In the last few years, the data has grown very fast. If you see your social media, your post, your videos, your audio, so there are a lot of things in terms of unstructured data, and unstructured data is also very popular when compared to that structure. But the industry has gone way far in structure, because if you see structured data sets like data warehouses have been there for 40 years. Now the world is also looking forward how to go ahead and handle unstructured. That means My data storage should include what? Both structured data and unstructured data. That is where the new concept came into picture called data lakes. Participants, everyone, are you with me? So I gave you the definition of data storage, where you need to go ahead and store your data. So for that, the point that you need to go ahead and use it, how is the data going to come to me? Is in the form of a structure, or is it going to come to me in the form of unstructured? So very basic classification, structure or unstructured. Based upon this, now the industry has defined a definition called data lake, or industry brought this concept of data lake. So what is data lake? A data lake is nothing but a storage service, a central storage service. If you look at the definition of data lake, so data lake is basically a centralized storage that stores large amount of data at an original format. So the point I want to highlight is the data can be coming in the form of a structure. The data can come in the form of a semi-structure as well as unstructured. So participants, I hope now you got a storage solution that can accommodate what? Structure and unstructured. What is that storage called? What is that storage called? Azure Data Lake Storage. In short, it is ADLS. Am I good to all of you participants? So today, if you want to go ahead and get started to go ahead and store your data, you need to find a storage. That storage should be capable to store your data in what format? Structured as well as unstructured. So if you look at the definition of data lake storage, that perfectly fits the requirement of what we need. So we need a central storage. We need to store the large amount of data in its original format, where I can go ahead and accommodate any type structure, semi-structure as well as unstructured. Now you got the definition of a data lake, everyone. Hello participants, are you with me?
Yes.
Yes, Siddharth.
Now let's come back to the Microsoft and let's look at.
Siddharth, I have one doubt. See, the data lake is used for only we need to store the data. Only we need to store the data of data storage purpose only, or some other purpose also we used to for the data lake.
Okay, to answer your question, visualize your data lake. Can you just put yourself on mute for a minute? Yeah. So just visualize data lake to be just a big storage where you just want to dump all your data. That's all. You just want to store it primarily for the storage purpose. Now, from data lake, what we do is we take the data and we give this data to processing units like Spark, Synapse, Databricks. So all these storage or all these processing services like Synapse, Databricks, they are looking for the data that is available at a central location, and that central location is nothing but data lake. So in a nutshell, data lake is nothing but just a storage. That's all. On top of it, we need to get the data pulled from the data lake and submit the data to our processing units like Synapse, uh, Databricks, Data Factory. Hope you could get the answer for what you're looking for.
I got it.
Welcome. Now, participants, much of the storage is done. Storage is already done. Now, let's focus on processing. And by the way, processing is your 70% of your learning. 70% of the learning focuses on your processing. Now, what is processing? Process means what kind of code that you will write, so that according to the code, your data gets, you know, processed in such a way that you get your outcome. So let's say I have 10,000 records of the sales. I want to go ahead and read the total amount of sales about a particular item on a particular day. That means I need to write a query in such a way that I need to get the data extracted from those 10,000 records, the total amount of sales done per the day for that item. Now you might think, Siddharth, it is already a data warehouse solutions already there, then why should we go and use it? Now here comes a very interesting concept. The concept is most of your data warehouses, with the experience that I have, I see those most of those data warehouses do not support parallel processing. Now what is this new term? Or distributed processing. Please remember this word. This word is also very important to justify Spark usage. Distributed processing or distributed processing means your data gets distributed across distributed processing in Apache Spark. Let's keep this way so that I can justify it. So what happens in an Apache Spark? Your data gets distributed across various machines. Just for now, visualize that you have your data, and in order to go ahead and make it faster, your data gets processed across multiple machines. That means not one single machine, you will have multiple machines. Another example, you see, there will be a master. This guy will go ahead and submit the data across various machines. So what happens? Your data becomes processed, your data gets processed faster. Why? Because there are multiple machines. So my point here is that traditional data systems, I cannot assure, but there is a very limited support for parallel processing, distributed processing. But Apache Spark is that engine that itself is built on this logic that it should support parallel processing, distributed processing. That means data gets spread across various machines. So this is one reason you see Apache Spark is a favorite for a lot of big data companies, and it is open source. And very interesting thing is that it supports both your batch and streaming, and it is in memory. That is a very unique selling point for your Apache Spark. In memory means you can run it on your RAM, and it you can see how fast and how super fast your RAM operations are. So because of these reasons, Apache Spark stands out to be on the top. So what are the features that we have highlighted? Big data. Because of the big data, the processing engine is Apache Spark. Distributed processing, parallel processing, in memory, fast. So you'll get to see in Azure, the data processing is purely supported by your Spark operations. Or they promote, the big data companies expects you to come with the Apache Spark skills. That means you should be very good in writing the Apache Spark. Now let me take you into Azure, and let me go ahead and ask Azure. Azure, I'm very new. I want to go ahead and use Apache Spark. What is the kind of solutions would you like to offer for running Apache Spark? It says Databricks, Synapse, HD Insights. So now you see Databricks and Synapse, as I've been highlighting, these are the very powerful engines that are designed to go ahead and do the programming for Apache Spark. Am I going good, everyone? Now you are able to relate? Participants, everyone, are you with me?
Yeah.
Yes.
So now connect the dots. First dot is what? Processing. What is processing? We need to use a top 10 or top engine for processing. For what processing? Big data. So we found Apache Spark. Why? Because of fast, in memory, distributed computing, parallel computing. This makes your Apache Spark the favorite for big data companies. Now we have decided to use Spark. So when you come to Spark, you get to see in Azure, it's nothing but Databricks and Azure Synapse. Am I good, everyone? So the choice for the Spark is Databricks and Synapse. So when you look at the Apache Spark, now let's come back to the Apache Spark, and let's look at the Apache Spark. If you open up the Apache Spark or just type in Apache Spark, if you open up the Apache Spark, you get to see Apache Spark is the multi-language engine for your data engineering, data science, and machine learning. You can run it on a single machine or clusters. This is how they branded Apache Spark. But how can I communicate with Apache Spark? I need to write a code. Yes, you need to write the code to connect and run. You can write a code in SQL, Scala, Java, R, and Python. So I am recommending Python should be an easier way to go ahead and use to connect with your Apache Spark. That means you can write your instructions in Apache for your Apache Spark in Python. Now that is where the new word came into picture called PySpark. That means Python plus Apache Spark is nothing but your PySpark. So using PySpark, you can go ahead and run your data processing commands, whatever the data processing commands or queries that you want to run, you can run using PySpark. So PySpark is the medium that we will be using to go ahead and process. And where we use it? We use it on Databricks and Synapse. That means if you open up a Databricks or a Synapse module, you have to write your code in Apache Spark. That is using PySpark. So once you go ahead and write it, it will go ahead and get the job done for you. So now coming back to this concept, what it was mentioning, design and develop data processing. That means in order to go ahead and do the data processing, you need to have the skill of Apache Spark, that is Python and SQL, and also you should be able to do the program. That's what is mentioned. If you are a candidate who wants to sit for this exam, you should have skills such as SQL, you should have skills of Python or Scala. I have already recommended you to use Python. So Python plus Apache Spark, that's how you will get into PySpark. Using PySpark modules, you will be able to code and connect to your Apache Spark cluster in Azure Databricks or Azure Synapse to do the programming. Did I justify everyone? Participants, did I justify? Now you're able to connect the dots. So first dot is about storage. We have seen data lake storage, ADLS. Next dot is to process the data. So in order to process the data, what were the processing solutions? Apache Spark. So where do you find your Apache Spark? In Azure Databricks or Synapse. How do you go ahead and write a command in Apache Spark using Python, PySpark? So using your PySpark code, you can go ahead and connect to your data and run your Apache Spark. Why Apache Spark? Distributed processing, in-memory computation. That means as a data engineer, today if you have skill working with data storage like ADLS, services like Synapse and Databricks for your processing using Apache Spark, then you have garnered all the skills for the examination and you have learned things to be ready for the job, for a job that you have. Participants, am I going good? Participants, am I going good?
I
Any
see that.
questions? Any questions? Okay, I see no questions from the participants, so let me continue. Now that we have seen the programming, now if I go ahead and bring all the data in such a format in the form of numbers and tables, outcome, everything, nobody would be interested. If I go ahead and get the data that you need in the form of an CSV file or a JSON file or an Excel sheet, maybe people will be okay, but they want to see the visualization. They wanted to see the visual reports, dashboards. Nobody would be interested to go and see just the data. They want to see some visualizations. They want to see. So there are a lot of visualizations that are supported, and the recommended visualization tool when it comes to services of Azure, they recommend to use Power BI. Why? Because Power BI is the proprietary product of Microsoft. So Microsoft has developed this product. So definitely Microsoft will recommend its own product, right? That you go ahead and use our product and you go ahead and integrate our product with the services like Azure Databricks or Synapse to display your data. Participants, am I clear to all of you? So Microsoft will definitely recommend, right? If you are using their products, it will recommend you Microsoft Power BI for display. There are other tools like Tableau and so on, but in order to justify the usage of Microsoft products under their Microsoft ecosystem, Power BI would be a great way to visualize it. Now, connect the dots. What are the dots that I want you to understand? Let me just go ahead and use a presentation and see. I don't go ahead and spend time on PPTs. I don't want to go ahead and spend time on PPTs, but I want to go ahead and give you a visualization. Now, what visualization I want you to understand is the C of the company is awaiting for you to come and give a solution. Now he wants to see the outcome. Let's do the reverse engineering. He wants to see some report. What report? A visual report. Now to make it faster, the reporting, what we need to do, we need to get the data pulled into the report from a processing solution. Now for now, the processing solution, you just consider it as Databricks or Synapse, somewhat, any other, Databricks or Synapse. Now Databricks works on concept of Spark. Spark gets the data distributed various across various machines. That means across multiple machines, we need to run our data outcome for the data. So we need to get this data across machines. Here is machine M1 for demonstration, M2 and so on, Mn, multiple machines in this. Databricks or Synapse will go ahead and use your Apache Spark. So here is the Apache Spark that is being used here. But data gets created somewhere, right? Let's say there is a taxi company, New York Taxi. So New York taxis, they run on the field. They go ahead and pick up the customers. They go ahead and drop the customers. So all of this taxi data information gets stored into a database. For now, assume a SQL database. The customer information, driver information, what is his pickup, what is his drop, where exactly you pick, what is the fare amount, all this information is stored into a database, transaction database. All the data is getting created. Now, what I want is I want to go ahead and see, or my CEO of the company, taxi owner company, wants to see how are the taxi are performing. They want to see what is the average price that they are able to collect from a passenger, what is the kind of refunds they are giving, what is the kind of growth that they have seen from the last year to today, what is the fuel consumption. So they want to generate some reports here, but the data is getting created here at part of the SQL team. Now I come into the role of a data engineer. Now I take the role of the data to pull the data from the source from SQL DB, and I move this data into Apache Spark for processing like Databricks. And from there I need to go ahead and get the data pulled and run into a different solution. So now I have another responsibility to move the data. So to move the data, now I have to go ahead and follow a different approach. That is, I have to get the data move, the movement of the data. So we follow this concept of ETL: extraction, transformation and load. We need to extract the data. See, uh, customers information is not relevant to the CEO of the company because he is not interested. He will just look at the total number of customer rather than looking at the individual customer. So I need to drop all the other unnecessary details of the customer. So I need to transform my data. Then I need to load it into Databricks. I extract it from my SQL DB. I transform all the essentials that is required and load it into Databricks. So this basically articulates into the concept of a pipeline. Now you see, I have to build a pipeline. That pipeline is about to go ahead and get the data pulled from SQL DB, bring the data into Data Factory or Databricks or Synapse, and then from continue to the pipeline to bring the data into the reporting system. So here parallel processing, Apache Spark, Databricks, Source, OLTP system. But now I'm very much in need of a pipeline, like an ETL solution. Now that ETL solution in Azure, we call it as Data Factory. So Data Factory is what? Data Factory is a solution from Microsoft Azure which helps me to build my pipelines to move data from one part of the pipeline to another. Now, how to remember what happens in a factory? All the raw materials will come to the factory. For example, I'm building an automobile like a car or a bike. So what happens to the plant? All of the material, like your gearbox, your your handle, your tires, all of this will come there, and they assemble it, and you'll get an outcome in the form of a bike or a car. That's what happens in a factory, right? So same thing happens in data factory also. All of the data is pulled from all the different sources. You process it, you assemble it, drop something which is not required, and then you get an outcome in the form of a well structured data that you can use it. So where do you go to store it? Data lakes. Now this is how data engineer has to work with all the services, sources, ETL pipelines, data factory, Databricks for Spark processing, Synapse for processing, reporting via Power BI, pipelines using Data Factory. So, participants, I hope now you got an idea of where exactly ADF will come. ADF stands for Azure Data Factory. Participants, everyone, are we good?
So I have one question.
Please.
Yeah. So coming to Azure Data Factory, Synapses, and Databricks, right? Is these three are like similar components, or how it is? Like I was not able to understand.
Okay, no problem. Data Factory, you treat it like a pipe that gets your water from one part of the source to another part. For example, let's say you are building a water plant to your, let's say you wanted to build a factory, water, purification factory for your village, for example. So the water is lying in the data lake in the source, like the river is flowing, all the water from mountains. You are standing at the lake. So what you do, you put out a pipe into that lake. You pull all the raw water from the river, so you feel that the water may not be easy for consuming. So what you do, you filter the data, you filter that water before it is given to the drinking. For drinking purpose, you will not just take the raw data from the raw waters from the river, and you don't go ahead and use it for drinking. So what you do, you take the data from the lake, you connect with a pipe, you bring all the raw data, and then what you do, you apply some kind of cleansing, cleaning, dropping the heavy materials, and clean it and process it and filter it. Then you give it in the form of bottles for people to drink. Correct? The same way, your data is kept as part of your data lake. That is your lake pipeline, your data factory. Your Synapse is all about, or Databricks is all about your filtering unit. And the outcome that you see in the form of bottles is nothing but you visualize it. You visualize it that. So now you got the fair principles of data factory, data lake, Databricks, Synapse. Is that very clear?
So coming to Synapse and Databricks, is those are similar, or I mean each have different functionality?
Both are actually competitor to each other. The way that I want to treat the competition is Databricks. Azure Databricks is a product from company called Databricks. Azure has its own product called Synapse. So Synapse is a proprietary product of Azure. So both of them actually offer Spark solutions. The only difference that you get to see is the way the vendors that they offer. So Synapse is offered by the vendor Microsoft. Databricks is offered by the company itself called Databricks. So
So it
Databricks,
will
Azure
be
Databricks,
depending upon the customer, whoever want to choose, they can choose either Synapse or Databricks.
yes, very good point. So it is the project, the company decides, maybe they want to continue in Synapse, maybe they want to continue in Databricks. But honest answer I'll give you, till date, all the projects that I've been working, there is a great inclination or weightage towards Databricks, because Databricks is being a third party. You can work on AWS, Azure, and GCP, and it is the company that is behind the Apache Spark. So a lot of companies are looking forward to run their products on Databricks. Otherwise, what happens if you remain on Synapse? It is only that Azure. That means it's only going to work in Azure. Synapse can only work in Azure. Databricks can work in AWS, Azure, and GCP. So let me support my statement. If you go to Databricks, you see Databricks as a solution or a service, you can run it on any of your clouds. It supports all of the clouds. Platform overview, and it supports all of the clouds. Let me go to documentation, and here I'm supporting the statement. So see, Databricks is running on Amazon Web Services, Microsoft Azure, and Google Cloud Platform. Synapse, it remains very specific to Azure. It's an Azure product, so it will run only in Azure. So a lot of companies have taken advantage of Databricks. Hope I justified your question.
Yeah, thank you.
Welcome. Now that participants, you have understood the various services and their role play. Please, if you have any questions, let's talk and discuss about it.